This broadcast is appropriate for all ages right here on hashtag WeAreMovieClub. Salutations, I am Cameron and I am a conversation ready. Today we're here to talk about Doctor Strange, the last movie until Infinity War releases into Netflix, into streaming. It'll be the last movie in the MCU we discuss. I'm excited about that, if I can be honest. I like that idea. Because next week we're going to move on to Accepted. We're going to start doing some movies that are outside, that are back to being movies from here, there, everywhere that I love or whoever else joins that loves. Forgive me just one moment. Did you just pee down the bookcase? What did you do? Alright, you moved all the blankets off the top of that bookcase down here. Are you just... Bear with me. What are you doing up here? Get down. I don't know what you're doing, but I don't like it anymore. Get down. Alright, so I didn't die. I just heard a noise that sounded like a cat peeing in a place that they shouldn't be. So I wanted to check that out. I apologize. Editors, cut that out of the final draft. Okay, so Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange, was never really into Doctor Strange as a comic book. So to see them do it as a MCU movie was kind of an interesting take for me. And watching him come to life, because I always just thought he was boring. They kind of went this Tony Stark route, as far as I'm concerned. Oop, just kidding. Oop, just kidding again. Did I move something? Bloody hell. Where they really made him look like an asshole that I don't want anything to do with. So, like, going into this movie, I really had no care about Strange at all. Like, I was actually mad that he was dissing on McAdams the whole time. Like, yeah, he's a brilliant whatever. It's like everyone thinks about Sheldon. Yeah, he's a genius. He's got a photographic memory, whatever. That doesn't give him the right to be a complete dick to everyone else. Yeah, someone didn't see something. Granted, it was going to kill a man. You can come about it just a little bit better. But the fact that he thinks he can literally do anything and not be touched. And I'm going to skip ahead a lot here, because there's some kung fu fighting in the beginning. It opens up on like a lot of magical, very confusing shit that's happening, which is supposed to get you to go, ooh, I want to see what happens in this movie. And then just a lot of no explanation about like the bald woman in bright yellow, like no explanations or anything there. But we get introduced to Strange, and we get to see him at the hospital and in action and everything, all the way to the point where he ends up crashing his car. And I just shotgun the first like 15 minutes of the movie for you. Totally not worth anything. Asshole that you shouldn't care about, doing his job, and then he gets dressed up in a suit. He's a douchebag, he's a douchebag, he gets in his douchebag car, he drives like an asshat, and then he ends up running off the road because he's not paying attention. He's not like texting and driving, he's using like holographic things to read full medical reports while he's driving far above the speed limit and changing lanes on a mountain road where he shouldn't be. Like, he's literally begging for something to happen to him. And maybe that's how he lives his life. Maybe he's so bored with life at that point that he's literally trying to live on the edge just to get that adrenaline rush to feel something. I feel like such a pretentious douche. I feel like Doctor Strange in that moment, but that's what it is. So, of course, when he wakes up, nothing's changed. He cares about what they did procedurally, not what happened to him. Not that he caused it all. But he thinks that he's so good that he would have been able to fix him had it not been him that had been hurt, because he's that good. But at the same time, he gets called out for not taking things that would be a challenge earlier, like the guy playing basketball that they end up hunting down. He was too far gone, so there's no glory. That's what he said. There's no glory in doing the insolvable case and challenging medicine like that, because it doesn't give you the notch on your belt. So for Strange, he wants something complex, but he wants something complex enough that he can beat. And so it can be impressive to other people. Apparently that's how he's lived his whole life. It's just being like, just racking up enough trophies to go, look at me, I'm better than you. And it's fine. Some doctors are like that. They're saving lives. Let them act whatever they need to act, as long as we get the guys saved. But we're watching a movie that somebody wrote with purpose. I think the idea is to try to redeem him later on. I don't think it ever happens. Like, not while we're watching, anyways. I think he's kind of an asshat all the way to the end of the movie, and he's just an asshat who's stuck in a situation. And then after the movie ends, I'm shortening a lot of this for the purpose of this discussion. After the movie ends, he goes through some kind of experience as the Sorcerer Supreme before Thor 2, Thor Ragnarok, Thor 3 technically, Thor Ragnarok, where he is a better character, a better person, and we get to see that in Infinity War, I'm sure, because I haven't actually seen it up to this point. What I need to do is just go do a double feature and go watch that and Deadpool 2. I'll probably do it in that order too, because I expect Deadpool 2 to be more entertaining for me, because some people don't like Deadpool, and that's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Alright, so with him way too long with him burning his hand, I'm shortening the movie so much because honestly, I'm gonna fucking have to tear it up on the review at this point. There's so much drawn out nonsense just to get to the spectacle that you're there to watch. The humor, even the humor, like there's not a lot of humor in the first act at all. It's very much dramatic about like him being a douchebag with broken hands, and then him finally finding the magic place, Kamar Taj, and then they don't want to take him because he's a dick, and he still hasn't learned up to that point that he needs to be nicer to negotiate people, that like he can't just demand things and it happens. Like there's give and take in the world and relationships of any kind. And he goes all the way to Nepal, and like he gets jumped. And it's not a busy street, but it's still just like out in the street. And then Mordo, ends up saving him and taking him to Kamar Taj. And he's still a dickhead, even like with a blatant warning. It's like, forget everything you know. Excuse me. Forget everything you know. Go in here with fresh eyes. And immediately, like, he's sexist. He's dismissive. He's condescending. He's like every bad character you can get until like she proves him wrong, and then he feels that like she owes him. Like I didn't understand that. It's like I was wrong. You are now obligated to give me all your knowledge. No one's obligated to do shit. Get out. And that's exactly what happens. It's what I like about the Ancient One character, is that like she actually functions on logic. Even like her borrowing from the dark dimension or whatever to keep herself eternal actually is done for good reason. Not that like she should be doing it, but like she guarantees that she can keep a benevolent ruler in place to logically rule in by like a set of guidelines instead of emotional nonsense, because that happens quite a bit when you get to like ruling countries and whatnot. It's like people tend to go on their whims, and it causes great pains for all the followers. Oh yeah, so I did skip a part. Caecilius is like the small bad guy in this, where he was one of their students, and he managed to get a group of people to revolt and steal some pages out of one of the Sorcerer Supreme tombs, like, so it constantly comes out through the movie. It's like, who's going to be the next one of him? Like, how do we prevent this? How do we do this? We've got to keep doing this and this and this and this. And there's a lot of like absolutes that happen, especially coming from the Ancient One. And one of them is don't do the thing that she's doing. So people tend to break on that concept where like they've been led all this time by a hypocrite. Like I don't know what to do with it. Like, and Mordo doesn't seem to break until Caecilius falls. Like it's really like as the idea of Caecilius going away means that someone has to fill the slot, and it's so bizarre that he turns like that after everything he's done and seen, like, and fought for her. But it does, that is the time where it finally calms down. But he's really normal during the fight with Caecilius with the time travel and everything. He's a little upset that, like, Strange takes off, but, like, he was okay with using the time reversal to repair the city and commit ultimate treasons. But, like, I guess, I don't know if he hit a limit or, like, he agreed that, like, this would be the one and only time he allows that to happen, and then he was going to take care of it afterwards. Because apparently that's what he does. He's a crazy pants guy. But he's, the thing that I like about Mordo especially is that he is kind of a zealot. He is devout in his beliefs. So he's applying that to the Ancient One and the Protector of Earth and the Sanctums, all the way up to the point where he's not. And then it all goes towards the next thing, which is tearing them down, which is fine. Like, it makes sense to a degree. So through all their talks about, like, Caecilius, they decide that, like, whether or not he is going to eventually be one, they need someone to fight the one that is now. And it's kind of like the principle with Star Wars, that there's always a Sith. Like, darkness always grows somewhere, so you need to promote the light to counter the darkness that you can't see. So it's pretty fitting. So they bring Strange back in, and he's a little baby about all the magic stuff. I can't do it, my hands, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, Stumpy over there is doing it like a pro. But, like, the light magic stuff, it seems weird that that's, like, initiate magic, because it's bright and flowy, and maybe that's the point, is that it leaks energy all over the place, whereas the stuff that the magic glass that Caecilius and his folks use, like, is solid. It doesn't leak at all. It's actually transparent with how little it uses. So maybe that's kind of the point there, that, like, they don't need the super special stuff. And, like, from what I do know about Doctor Strange in general, with his knowledge and, like, everything, it's like he does need preparation, but he has a lot of natural ability that leans towards these spells and everything. And it's interesting to see that sort of thing, even in the comics, where he's pretty boring most of the time, but he's so powerful. So seeing baby Doctor Strange here, learning, being frustrated, like once he hits that learning curve, that steepness, he runs away with it. So he starts devouring books, and he's working on the sling ring, and of course she pushes him just enough by abandoning him on Mount Everest, of all things. So he manages to get the sling ring to work enough to come back. And then he's, like, using it in the library. And honestly, I had a bio break, so, like, I missed some notes. But he ends up using time magic on the book with the missing pages, which, yeah, could break any number of things, because if you think about it as not so much as time, but flipping through multiple dimensions, that page has to come from somewhere. There are now 2 pages in that universe, that dimension, if you will, that exists because he rolled the book back in time before it was ripped out. So did he essentially borrow the book from a timeline in which it was never ripped out? So now there is a timeline that is missing that book because it was stolen to his dimension. Like, this is why time travel's the worst, and I think I'm gonna have to do that. So I started doing the Letterboxd. So the reviews are going up on Letterboxd as well as WeAreMovieClub.tumblr.com, and I made a list there for movies that involve time travel. I think I officially have to put Doctor Strange on there, because time travel is the worst. Like, it's just so complicated to talk about. And they even say in Looper, where it's literally like we're not gonna get into this or that because we'll spend all day here drawing charts and graphs and we won't get anywhere with it, which I think is funny, because that's how I would like to spend a day sometimes. But I've got other things to work on. So many other things now that I think about it. So let's see here. So he uses time magic on an apple in the tomb, and he gets to read the spell. And he starts casting stuff, and then they come in and reprimand him because the warnings come after the spells. Blah, blah, blah. So back at HQ, they're explaining the sanctums, and like right as they're explaining the sanctums, Caecilius attacks, and I don't remember if he attacks the HQ or he attacks one of the sanctums, and then that blows Strange into the London sanctum. And then there's like one guardian there, and he's on defense against Strange, and Strange is like, oh, I'm a good guy. So he, of course, the Guardian gets slain because Strange doesn't want to fight, and Strange ends up cleverly fighting off the rest of them. He ends up sending some of them through portals until he can manage the fight. He finds the cloak, which helps him. There's the rack thing that he ends up putting Caecilius in that helps. Of course, Caecilius just stalls until his crony gets there. And as much trouble as he was having with Caecilius, that crony gives him a lot of trouble, like an immense amount of trouble, to the point where like he's got to like teleport back to the hospital, inconvenience McAdams, learn how to astral project himself so that she can see. Then the guy ends up pretty wounded and astral projecting himself. There's a whole ghost fight. Like, I half expected Ghostbusters to run in and start shooting, just to add like a little bit of comic effect to it. But it's a pretty good fight. It's an excellent CG effect to interact with the real room like that, and it's done really, really well. And then like the concept of like putting electrical energy into his body and then displacing that through astral spell casting, essentially, even if it's a pure energy discharge, was a really clever idea. I don't know if that's something they pulled from the comics or if that's something somebody thought up, but like give that person a penny, because smart person. So let's see. Yeah, I had to deal with some fucking idiots in my chat too, so my notes are not great around here. But he eventually comes back to the Sanctum. Ancient One. Okay, then we go back to HQ. Ancient One is giving some kind of like weird pep talk to Strange, trying to get him on board. Because Strange is all like, "Oh, I'm a doctor. I shall do no harm. I don't belong here fighting. I came here to heal my hands," which has nothing to do with the majority of the time he's spent there. He's been spending the majority of his time learning magic for himself. The greedy bitch. Where the whole concept was that if he's there to learn, he's there to help and everything. So like, Strange, again, just kind of still like a dick even at this point in the movie, after having fought for the cause inadvertently. Because Mordo even calls him out on it. It's like, you weren't fighting for the cause, you were trying to save yourself. And that's a totally justifiable statement, honestly, when it comes down to it. Let's see here. So we get more fighting. Ooh, excuse me. Even though Strange has already been like, "Oh, I don't want to kill," where the Ancient One actually gets hurt, and I think the Ancient One actually bails him out because it's Mordo and Strange running from Caecilius' gang for a little bit, but they're bending stuff in real life, which is supposed to be like a huge deal in this. Which, yeah, if I'm driving down the street and suddenly I'm driving up to the sky, probably a big deal. But like, I think she manages to put just enough right. And Caecilius, I think, ends up cleaning it up, the rest of it up when he leaves. But like, she definitely is basically dead. So like, in the 1 second of life she has left or whatever, they have this fun astral talk, which remind me a lot of Fight Club, the end of Fight Club, where it's spoilers, it's him and Marla watching the buildings come down, and it's like, oh, it's very much like that, but the buildings are the Ancient One's life. So Strange kind of like comes out of it and tells McAdams to stop. Like, that she's gone. And so now they're literally left without a Sorcerer Supreme or a leader or any real focus in the cause other than maintain the sanctums. And Mordo being the senior leader, like it comes down to like him and Wong with Strange in the mix for some reason, just because he's acidine to put himself there. So the whole time, like, Strange and Mordo were talking while Wong ends up arming up to protect the sanctum, which I really like. I like that Wong took measures into his hands to be like, okay, we're going to grab whoever's left, we're going to defend, even if we're not as strong as these guys, we're going to fight. And of course, they get wrecked, and Wong goes out to the street to fight directly, even though everyone else, I think, gets killed in the sanctum. The time gets reversed, so like it's hard to remember what actually happened. And then not only does time get reversed, but time ends up running forward while time is reversing. So like they get trapped in like fish tanks and walls and stuff, and it's absurdity. It really is. It's pretty funny, but like as a serious fight goes, it's hard to keep track of everything happening. Doctor Strange is just one of those weird movies. Let's see. And of course, so when Strange and Mordo get there, everything's already wrecked, so they've got to do that rewind. Because there's really no other way around it for them to win. Now, they could just take on Dormammu. That's not happening, because they can't even finish off Caecilius. If we're being honest. Like, these are, like, little minions compared to Dormammu, and they're world-ending threat. And that's what Doctor Strange is all, or the Sorcerer Supreme is all about. Who Doctor Strange ends up taking that mantle of the Sorcerer Supreme. Is he ends up protecting the world against magical attacks and threats like Dormammu, or Mephisto, or and other crazy things. Things that like no one's really even aware of, like kind of like the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four are superheroes that go into space and defend against cosmic threats like Galactics, or Silver Surfer. They were in on Thanos in the comics, but whatever. So, like, there's this cool face-off battle thing, and then Strange just dips. And it's probably the best part of the movie. I'll be completely honest. I like the cape stuff because it's funny. And my single favorite scene is probably still Rachel McAdams freaking out about the broom falling over because, let's face it, it's golden. But this is probably the best part of the movie objectively, is Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Where he has infinite looping time, which is kind of fucked up, until you realize he has an Infinity Stone. And then he has, like, the base power of the universe in his necklace, so why not? So, like, just watching him get killed over and over again is a little satisfying all by itself, but, like, being that it's like, we'll just do this forever. So it's really a question of, like, someone like Dormammu, like, how long does it take for him to get tired of killing people? Like, really, like, did he do that for 1,000 years? How long did he do that for? And then, like, I was questioning, like, how much energy did he actually lose? Because, to me, I almost want to draw this out on a chart or something. But, like, it's in a loop, right? So, like, they're in the loop and they exist in the loop. So could they eventually die of old age in the loop? Like, when the loop ends and time actually goes forward, like when he releases Dormammu, how much energy did Dormammu use there? The Infinity Stone is infinitely powered, so in theory it would outlast Dormammu. In theory, like, because Dormammu would have to use up energy, whether it's from his whole dimension or not, it's a whole other question. But so there's all these, like, little outs and things I was thinking about for this, because it's a super interesting scene. And then, like, does he kill him enough times that he's actually tired of killing people? Like, does he actually retire from killing people? Like, the next place he goes to be like, I don't want to kill people. Like, I'm just bored with it. I've got a bad experience and I'll just assimilate them. And, like, he creates, like, a hive mind the next time he goes. And maybe that's a new villain that we end up facing. That would be pretty funny, actually. So, let's see. But yeah, eventually Dormammu agrees to the terms. Strange releases him. And Dormammu just kind of sucks his little minion guys away from Earth. And Castiel's just like, what is happening? What did you do? And it's all in the fine print, because like at any point Dormammu can just be like, I need a snack. That's a problem when you make deals with demons and stuff like that, and that's something you don't see enough in the Marvel universe, like the comic universe or whatever. That you don't see enough like demons and like things like that, like Ghost Rider and Blade and things like that were kind of made with that, so that you know that like those things exist, but you don't really see like Wolverine come across vampires very often, or the X-Men discover a demon and like they can't really do a lot because it's a demon, but they can inconvenience him until they can get a hold of a witch or someone that can exorcise him, things like that. Or maybe like the psychic attacks actually backfire because it's a demon, so like it's not necessarily psychically offensive but defensive. So like there's so many good things that like thinking about concepts like magic in the Marvel universe, and like all these outliers like Blade and Ghost Rider and Doctor Strange, like they make you think and they make you want new things from what you've already seen. And I think that's a good thing. You should always be thinking about new stuff and pushing forward, and like there's really a lot to do there. So eventually all that wraps up. Strange goes to put the eye back, and Wong praises him for it. Oh, there's a moment where Strange makes a joke about, I don't even remember what the joke's about, but Wong laughs, and it was fucking creepy. Like, Wong shouldn't laugh. Like, even in the comics, he's a straight-faced, just kind of, not mean, but like deadpan guy, and like they kind of did that to him in the movie all the way to that one point, and it was like, oh, that shouldn't be happening. And nothing against the actor or anything. Like, his laugh's fine. It's just the idea. I was actually invested enough in Wong as a character that it's like, oh, no, don't do that. And of course, like, if you stick around with the end scenes, like, not only does it show that the eye is an Infinity Stone, and that Mordo is going around killing sorcerers, so he ends up, the paralyzed guy that was playing basketball ends up taking his magic away. He doesn't even kill him, I don't think, but like he makes a claim about there being too many sorcerers, so he starts stealing their magic, and I'm sure that builds Mordo up into like his own villain. Like, I bet if we Google it right now, Mordo villain, that should give us something in the comic realm. Baron Mordo. What? Oh no, Baron Mordo, hunt down sorcerers who use their powers for no good. Carl Amadeus Mordo, major villain in the Marvel Comics universe. Mordo later entered service to one of Doctor Strange's enemies, Dormammu. Oh, so they really kind of switched him up for this movie. And I don't agree with that in general, but the actor did a great job. We have a serious lack of how do I say it? Racial and ethnic diversity in these comics. It's a lot of white dudes. So it's good that they added characters and they made small changes, but like things like that can have a cascade effect. So I'm glad that they used him, but I wish they just made a new character for that and called him something other than Mordo. Or, like, have him rename himself. That would have been the way to go. Like, don't call him Mordo all the way up. Because, honestly, at the very beginning, that gives it up. And I can't remember this guy's name, but he did such a good job with the character. But put a legitimate twist in there that, like, this guy becomes Mordo. Even if it's a color swap or whatever you want to call it these days. Like, I would be better for that if it had an effect, because I called Daredevil a Deadpool near perfect movie, because it does exactly what it's supposed to do. Maybe spiritually is the wrong word, but in the spirit of Deadpool. But they made changes to the story to facilitate that, so you can do that successfully. And there's not a lot of other comic book movies that did that. Like, Iron Man's kind of boring, really, when it comes down to it. Captain America having Red Skull go through the Tesseract And it's still, I haven't seen Infinity War, so I don't know if that's an actuality. It's still a theory to me. If he shows up there, great, because he should show up there as a general of Thanos. But that's an interesting twist, because I don't know if that happened in the comics, but it would, I think, would make things better. They've ruined Civil War. They took away so many good possibilities that made Civil War famous enough to do a movie about it in the first place. So it's ruining, like, and I think Infinity War could have been a lot better. I think if they had done the approach better, but they did a good job up until the point the movie was released, because that's all I can speak to. So hopefully the movie holds up, and seeing that many heroes on the screen at some point is worth it. Because like I remember growing up and seeing those Infinity War comics with like all the heroes on the cover, and then like they would do alternate things where it's like they had like half the heroes all running into battle on one side, and with like Thanos' fist on the right, and then like on the other comic it would be his other fist, and then like all the rest of the heroes running in on the left. And oh man, it brings me back, and I just wish it was done closer to the core comics. But in order to do that, it takes so much establishment, and the franchise has already done more than anyone has ever done movie-wise. They've already doubled what Harry Potter has done as a franchise, and the problem is that they broke it early enough that it's going to take a reboot. The problem with it being such a success is that they didn't have the whole universe. They didn't have X-Men. They didn't have Deadpool. They don't truly have Spider-Man. Like, they're sharing it with Sony, and so at least Sony's playing ball. But Fox, with the acquisition of Fox by Disney, that'll bring the rest of it into the fold. And so now you could have done Infinity War, right? But they didn't have the rights to do it correctly at the time. So hopefully what they'll do is they'll pull their heads out of their ass, power up Scarlet Witch, give her own movie, and then at the end of the movie she'll reboot everything. And that's really what I want, is Elizabeth Olsen on the last scene of the movie. She's crying, and she says something like, "I don't even have my brother anymore." And then the world shines, and then she's pregnant, she's kissing Vision, and then Quicksilver runs up with the drinks or whatever, and they're just hanging out by the pool. That would be the what I want. And then like just have the next movie, whatever it is, just have everyone be really confused that she got pregnant with Vision, because that's the comics, and then have that world that we reboot into be the comic book world, and just set it in today's time frame, or set it like in a recent time frame, or whatever you got to do to make the timing work out right. But let Iron Man be an old man that started in the 60s. Have Cap be an old man that started in the 70s, 80s. After he got thawed out, because that's when he got thawed out, was like 70s, 80s, somewhere in there. So still, by that point, he's still like 40 years older than he was when he went in, because he was only 18. Yeah, he was only 18 when he went in. It was a few years he was in service, so let's call him 25. So he's only 45 by this point in history, and he's a super soldier, so not that 45 matters. But the comics need, I don't know why this is the stage for this, but the comics need a point where the old heroes die and make room for the new heroes, whether it be from old age, retirement, or like death in action, KIA, which they've had so many opportunities for, but they know that Spider-Man makes money, that Captain America makes money, that Iron Man makes money, so they don't want to retire those products. But that's how you run the business properly, and you don't price yourself out and lose your audience. You start the new stories and new history, and you weave it into the old. Because the universe is supposed to have a history. It's the whole point of the comics. I don't want to see Captain America as a comic 20 years from now. Not with Steve Rogers at the helm anyways. And that's the problem that they're running into now with the transitions. Like Thor, with Thor going over to, spoilers, 3, 2, 1. Jane, whatever her fucking name is, Natalie Portman's character from the movies, with her becoming Thor, her having the power of Thor. I refuse to acknowledge that she's Thor. She just gets to wield the hammer and have the powers of Thor. But the Mighty Jane, like coming over, like she's still running the Thor comic because she took the mantle as well, because there wasn't another Thor around to challenge her. But eventually Thor came back, and he could, but maybe he's not worthy at that point. But Jane is, so she's doing the job. Captain America got passed the mantle to Falcon, so it became a very different Captain America. They experimented on the ladies' side too with Captain Marvel. I'm still pissed about this. Captain Marvel, not Marvel, Captain Marvel, you had to say it that way back in the day, was a Kree warrior that looked pretty human, that Miss Marvel modeled her entire character after because she had that power, and then Rogue put her in a coma and stole her powers for like 20 years. It was fucking ridiculous, really. And then finally, like, she woke up enough to go back into action and eventually got her powers back from Rogue, because Rogue ends up losing the ability to fly and super strength and everything eventually, because Miss Marvel takes it all back. And then sometime after that, she names Squirrel Girl Miss Marvel, and then she takes up the mantle, or she gets the mantle from Captain Marvel to be Captain Marvel, and she passes her mantle on to someone else, which doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why would you gleam off someone else's thing and be like, no, I'm Squirrel Girl, what up? Like, that's what I do. Like, Spider-Man would never change, he would never be the new Captain America. It doesn't make any sense. I need to stop talking because I'm going to go on forever about nonsense, and we've been done talking about the movie at this point. So thank you for watching. I have more thoughts and things to say. Go ahead and hit us up on at WeAreMovieClub on the Twitters, or you can yell at me directly at CameraRay25, or just come over and watch stupid shit with us on Rabbit/Camerai for right now, and we'll see what we can do for you. Until you see us next time, have a nice day from us here at #WeAreMovieClub. You want to see anything else we're up to, go ahead and click the annotations and they'll take you to our other channels. Thanks for watching.